Welcome back. Today I'm going to solve some puzzles, or try to solve some puzzles on chess.com. If you're new here, I'm not a chess coach or a titled player. I'm just a random person trying to get better at chess, and one of the ways that I do that is by solving puzzles. And last time I think I broke 1600 on my puzzle rating, and so this time I'm going to try to break 1700, but that might not happen in this video because I only have a certain amount of time. Oh, the opponent's king is come way down here by my king. Do I have a checkmate? I have a check here. I have a check here. But I think in both of those, the opponent has a way out. Wait, no. This might be mate, right? Because it'll be protected by my queen, and my queen is still cutting off that getaway square, and my rook will hit these, and of course my pawns are covering those squares. Yeah, for a second here, I was thinking I could check with the queen, but then the rook would block, and if I checked with the queen here, then the king gets away. I didn't have a chance to say it, but I saw those getaway squares pretty quickly, so I'm proud of myself. But I think this one's mate because they can't block that, they can't capture it. And I don't think the king has any getaway squares, so I might have just gotten a mate in one. Hopefully I'm not going to embarrass myself, but I think that's mate in one. Oh, okay. Next. Okay, here I think we have a mate in two, because I do have two different checks with my bishop. I have a check with the rook for that matter, but I don't think the check with the rook is it because it can just capture. And I don't think this check with the bishop is it because they can take. For just a second, I thought about taking the pawn first and then coming back to check, but I think it makes more sense to take this pawn with check. Because the king can't move, my pawn's covering those two squares, and they can't take that piece. My bishop's not pinned, and I'm not in check, so I think they'll have to block with the rook. And then that will be, would that be checkmate down there? Because the rook will be pinned, but no, then the bishop can block. Let's see, if I check here, I think they have to block with the rook, and then if I take the rook with check, king has to move over one, and then I think that's mate with the rook. Okay, maybe it's mate in three then. Let's try that. Okay, they did block with the rook. All right, we said if we checked with the rook now, they can block with the bishop, and then I think I'm stuck. But if I check here, the pawn's protecting the bishop, and the pawn's cutting off that square, and they can't block that, and they can't take it, so they'll have to move over, and then I think that's mate. Oh, wow, it was. Wait, did I not get points for that one? Oh, it just took about 10 seconds for the points to show up. Okay, that was weird. I did get points for it. It just took a long time. Also, it took the theme a while to show up, but it did finally show up. Very strange. That might be my internet. Over the past several weeks, we've been having internet problems here at the house, but we had a service technician come out a few days ago. They did something with the cable outside, and they replaced our modem, and it's been pretty good since then, so I'm hoping it's not, developing a new problem here. Next puzzle. Oops, there was an error. Okay, looks like, yeah. All right, you can see the red bar there on your screen. I'm having some sort of issue here. Well, I'm going to pause this recording and see if I can figure out what's happening. All right, it did not seem to be a problem with the internet on my end, so I think maybe the chess.com servers just had a little glitch there for a second, so we're going to try to go back to the puzzles page, and hopefully it will remember what my score was. I think we started at 1607, and I got 6 plus 10, so that should be, what, 1623, I think? Let's click puzzles and see if that's what shows up. Okay, it did remember our score there, and it looks like we're ready to go. All right, I'm going to start with my checklist, because I don't see an immediate mate. So the checklist is we look for checks. We examine all the checks, see which ones have the best follow-ups, see which ones are safe checks. Sometimes the checks lead to winning material, and sometimes they lead to checkmate. If none of those look like they're really good, then we'll look for captures, and we'll look for threats. Now here I only see 2 checks. One is with the bishop here on f2, but that one looks pretty bad. They can take that 3 different ways. The other check that I have is queen to g4, which also looks like they can just take it with the pawn, although I would get the pawn back, but that's not great for me, right? So I don't think that's good. All right, let's look at captures. I mean, that check was also a capture, but we determined it's no good. I can capture this pawn here, but that's not a check. It's not very forcing, and usually just taking a pawn isn't the answer to a puzzle. Now, I don't know what I would have after that, and I also don't know what my opponent would play. I think they would be worried about me coming back to g4 to check after taking the pawn, so they might move the queen up to protect against that. Then I don't think I have a good follow-up. Wait, I might have a good follow-up because that pawn is pinned. So is that it? Take here? And they won't bring the queen up here to protect against g3 because my bishop is guarding that square. So they might bring the queen up to e2 to guard here. But I'll just come over and check. It's not quite mate, but it's getting close. But still, I wouldn't have anything, right? Take this. Again, I have no idea what they would do, but let's say that they pushed the queen up. They wouldn't be able to move the king out of the way of that pawn pin, so that I think they would bring the queen up, but I don't know. Then I could check, and then they would just move over, and then I don't have anything. Okay, at least that I can see. That might be it. We might try it here in a second, but what else do we have? Do we have any threats? I can threaten their bishop. Is their bishop trapped? No, it's not. It can escape. Okay, I can threaten their bishop here. They could take. I could take. And then if they took back with the pawn, I could take with my queen, but I'm still not threatening a mate or anything. Okay, well, I've stared at this for quite some time. I paused the recording because I wasn't saying anything, but I've covered checks, captures, and threats. None of the checks look good, and none of them are safe, and none of them have good follow-ups. I only have a few captures, and none of them look good to me, including the queen to h3 that I was talking about. I think the problem with that is that I don't know what they would play. I also don't know if they do play something, again, like, just the queen moving up, then what do I do? So I have no idea. But the best that I can come up with is queen capturing h3 just because it puts my queen in the vicinity of their king. I have a feeling that this pinned pawn has something to do with it. And if my queen is over there on h3, even though I can't quite mate with it by itself, maybe I can figure something out. Maybe, depending on what they play, I could bring this knight in here, which would aim down there so my queen could checkmate on h2. I'm not sure because it depends on what they're going to play, and I have no idea what they're going to play. Besides the queen moving, let's see, bringing the knight wouldn't help. They can't move the f pawn. They could move their d pawn, which blocks my rook from seeing that. Did I say rook? It blocks my bishop from seeing f2, so then the pawn wouldn't be pinned anymore. I mean, I could take it, but then again, the pawn's not pinned anymore, and I'm not going to take it with the bishop because there's another pawn there, so I don't know. But anyway, I might fail this puzzle, but I'm going to take the pawn on h3. Oh, they did play the pawn. Oh, okay. Well, that was kind of a last-ditch thing I thought of. Well, again, if I take this, then that pawn's not pinned anymore on f2 because my bishop would be blocked by my own pawn. And I know this isn't about just taking pawns. I did mention knight to g4, which threatens the mate. What can they do to stop the mate? They could take the bishop, but that doesn't stop the mate. Can they stop the mate? Maybe they can't stop the mate. I don't know, and I've already spent too much time on this puzzle. So knight to g4. Oh, they stopped the mate. Okay. Well, that took care of that, didn't it? Or did it? I don't know. Wait, no, the knight's free, right? Do I just take the knight? Or is there still a mate here somehow? I don't know, but I'm going to take the knight, I guess. Oh, and wow. Okay. Well, I can't take the bishop. I mean, I can, but I don't want to, right? And I can't check because my bishop's not pinning that pawn anymore. Can't check with the knight. Definitely don't want to check here with my queen. My bishop is still hanging. Can take this pawn, which still protects the knight. Or I could go back over here, continuing to threaten the mate, but then they're going to take the knight and I'll take their bishop. That can't be it, because this is still hanging. Wow. Okay. Again, I have paused for a long time because I don't know, and I feel like I'm using up my entire allotted time this afternoon for this puzzle, which is blowing my mind. I don't, okay, sorry. I'm going to go back to my checklist. Let's start over as if the puzzle starts here. What's my checklist? There are checks. That's a check. That's a check. That's a check. All of those result in losing my queen. I think those are my only checks. Okay, captures, there's that. Both of those result in losing my queen. There's this pawn, which results in losing my queen. There's this pawn. Is it taking the e pawn? Okay, what are they going to play if I take the e pawn? I take my bishop with the pawn. That's not good, right? And I think we already said if I play queen to h3 threatening the mate again, they're just going to take this knight. And then I'll end up having to take the bishop. And then they're going to take my bishop. And then all I've got left is a queen. Wait, I'm missing something. Do I have any other threats? I can't get a rook out right now. Bringing a pawn up just loses my queen. In fact, anything that is not moving my queen loses my queen because the only checks I have are with the queen. So if I move anything besides the queen, they're just going to take it because they won't be in check. So I have to move the queen. If I move it all the way back, they take my knight or my bishop, either one. If I go here, they take my queen. Go here, they take my queen. All of those lose my queen. That loses my queen. That doesn't lose my queen, but they take the knight, and then when I take back, they take my bishop. That loses a queen to the other bishop. That loses a queen. That loses a knight. Okay, so I'm back to h3. Take here. Right? Okay, that's what I was missing. That's check. Okay, so they can't take my bishop because that'll be check. So they'll have to get out of check, and then I'll take that pawn? I don't know. But at least I'm not going to lose both pieces, right? Because if I go here now threatening the mate, so they kind of have to take the knight, and I take the bishop, they're in check, so they can't take my other bishop. I've spent too much time. Let's try that. Oh, they did take it. Well, I kind of have to take that now, I assume. Oh, and it stopped? Okay, well, I'm glad it stopped because that one went on for a long time and was very confusing. But what does my opponent what does my opponent play now? They only have 2 legal moves, correct? And then I've got to save my bishop at that point. And I don't know, should I save it by taking the pawn? Because then they've got a passed pawn. Oh, no, it's not quite passed, but they've got an unopposed pawn in the middle. So if I take that, they take, and then I take, and then that F pawn is pinned again? Or is it about a repetition? Was I trying to get a draw? Okay, we're not even on material, right? I'm up 2 pawns now, and their king is open. So I understand I should have a slight advantage, but other than that, like all our major pieces are identical. We're even on that. Okay, I'm going to go to the analysis board because I don't see a path to victory here. It looks like chess.com is having more server issues. When this first appeared, the white pieces were down at the bottom, and it took a couple of seconds before it flipped, and then like 3 more seconds before the lines started showing up. I remember it was about this time last year, wasn't it? Or was it was January, February of last year when the ongoing server issues happened. Okay, so white played that, which gave me a huge advantage. They should have done something else. Okay, there's only one move that's good for me, and that's taking here. D4 was their best move or among their 2 best moves. I guessed this correctly, and it was a guess because I wasn't sure. Threatening mate, they have to do something about it. It actually says knight to F3 is best. Okay, that's what they played, isn't it? Right, and then I just took it, and it says their best move is to check me now. Or bishop to E2. They're about even. Okay, so they played this, and I was right to go back over. Their best move by far is to take the knight, so they did, and then I take back. Now, I'm guessing the reason the puzzle didn't continue is because I have multiple moves on the next one, but it looks like they would play king to H2. The engine thinks that's slightly better for them. They only have the 2 legal moves, right? So they come here. Okay, that's the problem is why the puzzle didn't continue is I have a lot of moves that are good. I can check on H4 or H5, but almost as good as taking this pawn. I'm going to guess if I check on H4 or H5 that they're just going to move back. And then, so this is I think this is one of those cases where Stockfish is suggesting a repetition. It says their best move is king to G2. And yes, my best move is to check here, where I just was, which is a repetition. And their best move is king to H2. Yes. Okay, Stockfish wants me to draw this, but claims that I'm winning. So I've got to come down here and take this pawn, which is what I thought I should have done last time. Now what's their play? Either taking here or playing F3 or a very, very close. Well, let's say they played F3. Now I can check them, and it's not a repetition because a pawn has moved, so it wouldn't be an identical position. Also, one of their pawns has moved. But now I can't check on H4 because their queen is there. So, okay, so I check here. They come back. Now I take this pawn. They can take that with the queen, and that does appear to be their best move. Now they're aiming at an undefended pawn down here. The engine had trouble deciding. I could castle either direction or check on G6, which would incidentally protect my G pawn. That seems to be slightly best, okay. And now the king goes to either H1 or H2 or H3 even, but it can't go this way because of my bishop. They can block with the bishop. That's their 4th best move. Well, apparently there are only 4 legal moves here, and that's the worst one, but they could, and I think I would just take it, yes. So the best move is to go to the corner, and then what am I going to play? I'm going to check on H5. All right, are we going to get another repetition? Because now they only have 1 legal move, which is G2, and my best move is to check on G6. All right, well, I win a lot more moves than the puzzle, and I still don't see how I can win this game. I'm up 3 points of material, but my king's kind of stuck here, and I'm stuck having to protect this pawn if I don't castle. Right, if I castle, they're not going to take it, right? Because then I put a rook here. Like if I castled queenside, then they wouldn't take the pawn because then their queen would be pinned to the king. But still, if I don't castle, I'm stuck defending that pawn, right? And I'm only up -2. Before too long, if I give them a chance, they're going to throw this b pawn forward. I'm going to have to run away with my bishop someplace. Then they're going to start coming after it, so I'm going to have to give my bishop a hiding spot. All right, I spent a lot of time on that, but I do not get it. And it says it was only rated 1463. Okay, next. Oh my. My opponent's about to promote. The checklist changes a little bit for me when we do these endgame puzzles, because I do have checks, but in these puzzles, I tend to go by process of elimination because I have so few pieces. For example, my e-pawn can't move, so I don't have to consider that. These 2 pawns only have 1 move each. This one is a check, but then I assume they're going to take that pawn. And then I could check with my bishop. So would they get in front of that pawn? My F pawn? I don't know. I could get them out from in front of it by checking here. I don't know. If I play this, they promote, right? I have no idea. Wow. Okay. Yeah, normally I would say you keep checking because that's the way to keep them from promoting. And when they promote, it's going to be check. Okay. Oh, wait. Is it moving my king here? Because that's okay. When I said that when they promote, it'll be check, that made me think maybe it's a king move because I found a problem with all the pawn moves. If I move this pawn, they come in here and then they're guarding all the promotion squares, right? And this pawn can't move and the bishop is stuck behind it. Okay, so maybe it's a king move because I mean, moving my bishop those places doesn't help. This one doesn't do anything. Taking that just loses the bishop and they're still going to promote. I don't know why I would put my bishop anywhere on the rest of that diagonal. So maybe it's a king move because after that, that's mate. What do they play if I play king to e6? They check me, right? And then I can block with the bishop and I'm still threatening mate. Okay, I'm going to try king to e6. Oh, they did check me. Well, I think I have to block with the bishop. You think they'll take it? Oh, I don't know. Well, let's see. If I block the check with the bishop and they take it and I take the rook, then they promote, but it's not check and I'm still defending this pawn and that's still mate. Okay. So I have to take it. They promoted and this is checkmate, is it not? Wow. Okay, I don't think I'm going to break 1700 in this because a couple of these have taken a long time, but maybe I can get to 1650. Next. All right, it took a little while. When I clicked next for this puzzle to show up, I clicked the button and nothing happened. So yeah, the site is definitely having some issues. Okay, let's look for checks. I do have one here, and I have one over here on f3 and e2. Well, the opponent has choices, not with this one. With e2, the opponent does not have a choice, correct? All they can do is move over, and then I will check them with the rook. They'll take it, but then my knight will be preventing their king from getting off the H file, and I'll have mate over here. They'll have to block with their queen, but I think that's it. Okay, yeah, that was a checkmate, even though no theme is listed. Oh, and I got 14 points. That little knight maneuver is something I've been seeing a lot in puzzles, especially when I've been doing the puzzle rush. The idea is to force the king, over to the side, then you sacrifice a rook because you have another piece. So as soon as I saw that that was one of the checks, I started looking down here to see if I had a piece on a rook on the H file, which I did, and then I saw that I had a queen that could also get to the H file after I sacrificed the rook. And that all happened faster than I could say it. So I think that Puzzle Rush is definitely helping because I recognized that pattern. I don't think I've ever seen that in a game, but it's possible that I had it in a game and I just didn't see it because, I'm only now learning to recognize it. Next. Okay, that one loaded fairly quickly. All right, wait, this looks just like a puzzle I had a couple days ago. But I don't remember what the answer was. I remember that I can check here because the pawn is pinned, but is that threatening anything? Oh, I just don't know. And yeah, it does look really familiar to a puzzle that I had recently, but I honestly don't remember what the idea was. I can't remember if this bishop is important, although, it's in there, so it might be important. But let's examine the checks. There's the queen check. Yeah, that's the only queen check. I assume they would just take it. If they take it, do I have a follow-up? I do not. I cannot check again after that. Knight checks, that's the only one. Knight to g5 check. It can't take with the pawn, you can't block a knight, so the king has to move, but it has a bunch of options. I assume that after checking with the knight on g5, the king would move over to g7. Because if it moved back to the 8th rank, then I could take this pawn. So I assume it's going to move to g7, but then what do I do? I could check again on e6, but the pawn just takes. So that makes me wonder if I shouldn't take the knight first, so that the pawn isn't there. But no, because the pawn could stay there. They would take back with the queen, and then this check just loses to the queen taking the knight. Maybe I should take the pawn first with the bishop, but they don't have to take back. Oh, but if they don't, then I could either retract the bishop or take another piece. Okay, so what about that? If I take that, and if they capture back, then I have this check, which is a fork of the king and the rook. All right, well, again, I have hopefully cut out a long section of me pausing and thinking about this. I have no idea what I'm going to play if I check on knight to g5 and the king moves over to g7. The only thing I can think of is that I could take the f7 pawn with my knight, right? Sorry, let me change the colors there. After the king moves to g7, I could take that pawn because it is protected by my bishop so that their king couldn't take, but their rook could take. Because my knight would be threatening, my knight would be threatening the queen. So I assume they would take it with the rook and then I could take with the bishop, but then they would take my bishop with their king and and I would have picked up a pawn and a rook for a bishop and a knight. But then once their king takes there, then this pawn would be undefended and I could take that. And then my rook's pointed here. So this is probably going to be another one of those cases that even after I look at the analysis board, I don't see how I'm winning. Or this isn't the answer at all and I'm about to lose the puzzle. But that's what I'm going to play is knight to g5 check. Okay. And let's see, if I take that with the bishop, it's not threatening anything. So it's a little bit more potent if I take it with my knight, because then I'm threatening this. But again, it looks like we just trade my 2 pieces for their rook and their pawn. I have no idea. Is that going to be it? And it stopped. Okay, it does look like I'm up on material, but I'm really not, right? Because they're going to take. So let's go to the analysis board again. Okay, so they played that, and it's a big blunder. I'm up +4 only if I check, which I did, and then they move over. Okay, I was pretty sure that was my best move, because like I said, if they had gone back, yeah, I would have taken the h-pawn and been threatening mate. Okay, so they did the right thing, and it's really good for me if I take this pawn. It's their best move to take back. And it's really good for me, my only move if I take here. And they're going to take back, right? Because right now I'm up 3 points of material, but now I'm not. And the only difference is that my king's a little safer than theirs. And I get an extra pawn. So why am I so far ahead? Okay, I should be up +1 right now. Okay, +2 because their king has been chased out a little bit. But they still have that rook. Oh, I'm surprised that rook to h8 is so low on the list. Oh, is it because I can just take the knight? No, because their queen and their king are guarding the knight. So it's not that. Yeah, why wouldn't they play rook to h8? Well, because I can check, and then they don't have the king guarding the knight anymore. Okay, so it says their best move is rook to c6. Wow, yeah, I would probably lose this game too. Okay. All right, well, I did break 1650, so I think I had a total of 45 points in this video because those aren't all the puzzles I did. I did 2 puzzles before I had to start it over. So yeah, that took a lot longer than it should have. Sorry about that. Hopefully the edited version will be much shorter for you. Thank you for spending your time here. I'll see you next time.